I'm about to say something that may shock you. It might even offend you. You ready? Work-life balance is a joke. It's a joke. It's not for real. And also you might already be thinking, well, what about work-life integration? Also a joke, also not really. I mean, it's like well-intended, and there's so much more. Hi, hello, my name is Heather Patterson, and if you are new here on this channel, I talk about all things mindset, life, leadership, love. I use a lot of personal stories. I share some stories from clients or things that I observe, and we're just gonna get right into it. If you are back, you've been here before, you're not new, welcome back. I'm glad that you are here. I'm glad that everybody's here. Thank you, thank you. Me and my partner, we just got back from Nashville. And I picked up a little bit of an accent. Has that ever happened to you? So I don't know how it's gonna come through on this video, but I'm just gonna roll with it. So pardon me if I don't sound like myself. I don't know where this came from. My inner country girl, I guess. All right, so like I said, work-life balance, work-life integration, all a joke. Like I literally roll my eyes, a little bit every time I hear it. And I think that you should too. And I don't normally should on people. Like I really normally do not. There's a lot to this, and I want to unpack it a bit with you, and I want you to hang in here with me so we can bust this up, because it's just not doing anybody any service. When I was preparing for this video, I researched when did work-life balance, when was that introduced? I'm a dork like that, so I looked. And it wasn't until the 1980s that this concept was introduced, and it was introduced as a part of the women's lib movement, which, thank you, all of the people who went before and, paved a path for women's lib and some of the benefits that I've gotten to enjoy as a result of their hard work. I am not, putting that down in any way, shape, or form. I just think that it is incomplete. Okay, my camera cut off and I don't even know where it picked up, but I'm just gonna keep, or where it dropped. And anyway, here's what I was saying. Work-life balance is this idea that there is work and there's life, and they're like scales, and we're supposed to balance them, like divide our time. It's supposed to be balanced. Then this idea has come along called work-life integration, with a lot of strategies and hacks, things like create a flexible work schedule, or work from home, or work remotely, which, the whole world was forced to do pretty much. Establish a quitting time, and, integration, which I think that the move from balance to work-life integration is well-intended. I sincerely believe there are a lot of well-intentions. Here's my big chief complaint about both, right? Work-life balance, work-life integration. Just the words alone, fundamentally ignore all of the other facets of a person's life, like spirituality or relationships, friendships, romantic or family or otherwise, hobbies, recreation, health, fitness, peace of mind. Did I say spirituality? I think I did. But financials, wealth and that sort of thing. All of it, right? All of it. How is it that, and I have some thoughts about this. This isn't an actual question. That they call it what do they call it? I don't know what kind of question they call it. But how is it that work and life just got, work gets half of the equation, when really there's so much more. For my parents out there, parenting is a whole dimension and dynamic. Travel is a whole dimension and dynamic for some of you watching, right? So how is it that it went work, a very specific facet, to life, way general? I don't know. I just don't jive with that. It doesn't land with me. It never has landed with me. I've not really talked a lot about it, and it's been on my mind a lot lately. Even in introducing and saying, hey, we talk about, here on this channel, we talk about life, leadership, and love. That was my attempt at sort of encompassing all of it in a quick and catchy way. Yet it doesn't. I mean, it leaves out many aspects of a person's life. So I don't have a catchy phrase or way of putting it at this moment. I've heard people using words like life by design or intentional living, a more holistic approach. And I think that those capture it pretty nicely. Maybe I will adopt one of those in the future. But until now, I just want you to think about your life like a gemstone or a diamond, right? There's many facets that make it complete, that make it whole. And thinking about it in just work and just life, is leaving out so much richness. There are so many great teachers out there, people who are providing very valuable strategies. So I do not want to dismiss them, put them down in any way, shape, or form. Things like being selective and inquiring with your employer about, whether or not they have a flexible schedule, setting up systems so that you can work and play at the same time, establishing a quitting time for boundaries. Yes, that is all valuable. And there is so much more behind and underneath those strategies and tactics. So I'm not saying don't throw them away. I'm just suggesting to you that we go a bit deeper. So why all the fuss about this? Well, I mean, look, the strategies and the tactics and all that stuff, it's not exactly working because I know because I know personally, and also I know because I make a living helping people address this very thing, right? So there needs to be a bigger conversation about it. That's why I'm bringing it up to you, okay? So what happens is when we begin to compartmentalize, because that's what it is. We are compartmentalizing, and we say, I'm like this here, and I'm like that there, and this here, and It causes us, whether we're conscious of it or not, to create pressure, think of it like being in character. I mentioned in my introduction that we just got back from Nashville, and I had so much fun, yet I'll say one of the things that became obvious to me was it felt like it was a big costume party for cowboys and cowgirls. And was I in costume a little bit? Yeah, I was. It was pretty fun. But to be in costume as a cowgirl for more than 3 days, that'd be pretty hard. I'm not a cowgirl, right? So you can imagine how if a person were to take that into their whole life and they weren't being true and authentic, that would be very exhausting and disoriented. It's also limiting. It prevents a person from being able to express and be their true selves no matter where they go. And the reality is that you got to be able to be true and authentic wherever you are. Because when you are that way, when you can express and you can be authentic, you're going to have more energy, you're going to have more creativity, you're going to have more confidence, right? That other way of putting on a different persona and acting is exhausting. It's draining, it's depleting, and it really creates, not only are you creating separate compartments in terms of your life, it is creating separation between you and you. It's creating separation between you and you. That is not what was intended for you from our Creator. Not at all. In fact, it's about having this adoration, this love, this appreciation for yourself and who you are. So here's what I know. I know that there are two questions that when answered and in the most authentic, the most honest way for you, right? For you, not by me, not by anybody else, but these two questions answered in the most authentic, the most honest way for you will get you back that energy, that clarity, that direction, right? And those questions are, what do you want and what do you value? Like I said, those questions are, what do you want and what do you value? And notice what I said. They must be answered honestly and authentically for you. Here's the problem. The problem is that you have been taught, and I'm going to give you a little laundry list here, and I could go on for much longer than this, but you've been taught that what you desire is, I don't know, maybe somebody taught you that is unrealistic. Does that sound familiar? Or somebody taught you that you should sacrifice your wants and needs for somebody else's comfort. Or maybe somebody taught you that you are too, I don't know, fill in the blank. Too tall or too skinny or too experienced or too whatever, right? For you to have what it is that you want. Or that you are not, right? You see where this is going? It's just the opposite. You are not experienced enough, or you are too skinny, or you are too fat, or you are too short, or you are too brilliant. I don't freaking know, right? Like I said, like the list could go on and on and on, right? But we are programmed, we are conditioned, and oftentimes not even like by well-meaning people. Okay, they're just putting their beliefs out there, and our subconscious mind is wide open, and we just take it. We don't know how to interpret it or decipher it or accept or reject it. And so that gets programmed and conditioned. And so oftentimes this process of living this fully authentic, honest life requires us to unlearn some of that programming, some of those paradigms that have been formed over time and through repetition, right? And we have to teach ourselves. And then in turn, we are out there having to reteach people in our worlds, whether it's our employers, our significant others, our families, our friends, our neighbors, right? People in our community, who we really are. So when I was writing this, I was thinking about what is a personal story of mine that I could share with you to like demonstrate this to some degree or another. And I thought of just the story. So let's like cozy up for a little story time, okay? All right, so there are many stories, but this is the one that immediately came to mind. And I really trust my intuition when I am in creation mode with this sort of thing. So if you want more stories, let me know and I'd be happy to share some more. But this is the one that came immediately to mind. So I remember this is when I was really, my last video I talked about kind of a wake up moment. And from there was a number of things I started to really learn about and begin to embody. And this idea of one life with many facets was one of them. And so, yeah, it was probably... I'm going to say it was probably by this time, I remember the home I was living in. So I'm like thinking, oh, when was that? That was probably 2013 or 14, I think. And I had plans that evening to go out with a girlfriend of mine, a friend of mine. We had plans to go to dinner, and she texted me and she said that some woman that I didn't even know was going to be joining us. And it was sort of like, this is happening. And I value connection. Like, it is one of my highest priorities in life. If you've ever taken the love languages quiz, quality time is my number one love language, right? Which, if you don't know about that, that's another time, another conversation for another time. But regardless, connection, my number one. And I was really looking forward to connecting with this person. So I get the text message. I'm like, that's not what I want. And that is completely clashing with what I value, especially as it relates to this particular moment in time. So I think I texted her and said, hey, call me when you get a sec or something. And we get on the phone, and I told her, I was very honest, with a shaky voice, mind you, and I'll get into that. But I just said, look, I really wanted to spend time with you one-on-one. And if that's not possible, then you and so-and-so like go have a nice time, and we can reschedule, or like maybe we could just keep it to the original plan. And she was like, oh, thank you so much for saying something. I didn't realize that it bothered you. And by all means, like, let's go. So we went out, had our little lady date, and had a lovely time. And, all was well. But I'll tell you, I said I had a shaky voice, even making my request, right? Because I was scared. I literally was like, oh my gosh, like, what if she thinks that I'm like being a brat by making this request, or like I'm being selfish, or like worse, like, oh my God, like, what if she thinks I'm a total bitch, right? And I was so worried. Yet my worry wasn't quite as big. It was pretty close, but it wasn't quite as big as my desire to really be authentic in what I was creating in this experiences that I was having in my life. So I chose to be courageous and be a little nervous all at once and make the request. The worst that was going to happen is that, well, I guess the worst that was happening, she would say, bye, see you later. And I don't want to be friends with people like that anyway. Or we would just reschedule, and no big deal, right? And it took me really taking that step and having that experience. And then when the next opportunity came for me to ask for what I wanted, that was available, and I did it, and I had another experience of, oh, I can actually have what I want, and on and on and on it goes. Now, I'm not saying that every time you ask for what you want, you're going to get it, yet being willing to ask for what you want and create what you want is so powerful. I say all this because the people that hang out with me, someone like you, right? My guess is that you are an entrepreneur or desiring to be an entrepreneur. You want to have a rich, full, happy life, right? That is who hangs out with me. I know that about you already. And what I know is, again, creating that separation and putting on these different personas in the different facets of your life, it's draining you. It's exhausting you. When the opposite is to come from a place of authenticity, from honesty, from your personal truth. And when you do that, what happens is you create these foundational elements, right? Like I talked last week about responsibility being the cornerstone of a happy life. And that is so true. Yet there are things that kind of branch out from there. This is one of those things. And so when you come from that place, you are creating connection. You are creating trust. You are creating empathy. And think about some of the biggest things out there, like amazing businesses, amazing relationships, amazing, humanitarian efforts, all built on the back of trust and empathy and connection. So if you want this happy, fulfilling, joyful life, you gotta start by understanding that there's no need to compartmentalize, when in fact it is the accepting of all the facets and being truly you in all areas. One way for you to get started is to begin really looking at that question of, what do you want? What do you want? I created a tool for my clients. It's called the Fire Starter, and it is a prompt, a journaling prompting exercise that will support you in identifying different areas, things that you want, and then prioritizing those things and setting some goals. You can download it. It's over on my website. It's heatherpatterson.com/Firestarter. I will link that in the description. And if you want additional support, I'm here to support you as well. There's links to schedule a call also below. So if you want to go even deeper, we can do that one-on-one and kind of explore what doing that together would look like for you. So until next time, I really hope that this has made an impact to you. And not only that it got you thinking, but it really is moving you into action.